It is.
Let a young hater get down on it. Yeah, love when you spin around on it. Yeah, even though you're a newborn. Yeah, shawty, I promise the truth. And when I put down on it.
Hey, young nigga, self-made, real shit, fast cars, fast bitches.
It was the middle of the night in Charlotte, North Carolina. Most of the city was asleep. The streets in the northwest part of town were quiet, the kind of silence only found in the hours before dawn. But inside one home on Porter Street, something irreversible was happening. At 5:21 a.m., the call came into Charlotte Mecklenburg's 911 line. The dispatcher's calm, rehearsed greeting was met by a trembling voice. I need police. Somebody just been shot in my house. That caller was 51-year-old Stephanie Alexander, and the person lying inside her home with a gunshot wound was 25-year-old Tyra Crosby. By sunrise, Tyra was gone, and before the day ended, the woman who admitted to pulling the trigger was already free on bond. How could something so final, so irreversible as the taking of a life, be followed by such quick release? How did the justice system reach its conclusions in this case? And why does Tyra's mother still insist that what happened to her daughter was far more sinister than official records show? To answer those questions, we have to retrace every step, from that July morning through months of courtroom battles to the final sentencing in December 2024. Along the way, we will hear from the one person who never stopped fighting to keep her daughter's name alive. Tyra's mother, Tanya Hoskins. This is the story of Tyra Crosby. And it begins in the darkness before dawn. Tyra was born on August 28, 1997. Just 25 years later, she would lose her life in circumstances that still trouble her community. To those who knew her, she was more than a statistic or a headline. Family members describe her as loving, vibrant, and full of potential. Her mother has said repeatedly that Tyra was trusting, and that very trust may have placed her in harm's way. Tyra was navigating young adulthood in Charlotte, carving out her place in the world like so many women her age. She was building friendships, she had dreams of stability, and she had a close relationship with her mother, Tanya. Tanya was her anchor, the person Tyra called in moments of joy, worry, and fear. That connection would become crucial in the days leading up to her death. Because just before Tyra disappeared, she told both her mother and a close friend something chilling, that she didn't believe she would live to see her 30th birthday. In the early hours of that Tuesday morning, police say Stephanie Alexander placed a call to 911 from her home on Porter Street. Officers arrived to find Tyra dead inside from a gunshot wound. Alexander explained that she had shot Tyra after finding her in the home. Detectives interviewed her, processed the scene, and by that afternoon she was charged with voluntary manslaughter. But then came the development that enraged Tyra's family. Less than 16 hours after she pulled the trigger, Stephanie Alexander posted a $250,000 bond and walked out of jail. The contrast was unbearable for Tanya Hoskins. Her daughter was in a morgue, her life ended. The woman accused of killing her was back in her home by nightfall. Tanya told reporters, "She murdered my daughter at 5 in the morning, and she was out by 8 that night. Human life means nothing anymore." That single day set the tone for the entire case. A battle not just in court, but between a grieving family's cries for justice and a system bound by its own rules. As Tanya processed her loss, she began piecing together her daughter's final hours. And what she says she found became central to her fight for justice. First, she said she received an 8-minute voicemail from Tyra's phone. On it, she claimed she could hear her daughter being beaten, threatened, and terrified. Tanya insisted this was proof that Tyra was attacked before she was shot. She handed the recording over to CMPD investigators. Second, Tanya pointed to surveillance footage from an arcade where, according to her, Tyra had been seen with Stephanie Alexander's husband hours before the shooting. The implication was devastating. That Tyra was invited to the home under false pretenses, unaware she was walking into a married couple's house, and that this deception led directly to her death. Tanya told news cameras she was set up. My daughter didn't know she was walking into that woman's house. It is critical to note here that police never publicly confirmed either the contents of the voicemail or the details of the surveillance footage. They acknowledged receiving both pieces of evidence but did not release them. For Tanya, however, they were more than evidence. They were a mother's last desperate link to what her daughter experienced in the moments before her death. Just 2 weeks later, on August 3, 2023, Tanya's persistence paid off. A Mecklenburg County grand jury indicted Stephanie Alexander on a more serious charge, second-degree murder. For Tyra's family, it was the vindication they had been demanding. No longer would the case be treated as a lower-level manslaughter. This was now a murder trial. But court cases are long, winding journeys, and indictments are only the beginning. As the case moved forward, emotions spilled over in the neighborhood. Sometime after Alexander's indictment, gunfire erupted outside her home. Bullets pierced the walls of the house, though no one was injured. Police investigated, but it added yet another layer of unease. For Tanya, the news was chilling. She wanted justice through the courts, not through violence. But she also understood the anger in her community. People were outraged that someone could be accused of killing a young woman and still live freely among them. Waiting for trial, Tanya continued to speak out, often with tears in her eyes. Every day feels like another funeral, another Thanksgiving, another Christmas, all without Tyra. As the months stretched into more than a year, the case crawled forward. Tanya attended hearings, gave interviews, and never let her daughter's name fade. Finally, in December 2024, the case reached a courtroom resolution. Stephanie Alexander stood before a judge and entered a guilty plea. Not to second-degree murder, not even to voluntary manslaughter, but to involuntary manslaughter. The sentence? 60 to 84 months in prison, roughly 5 to 7 years. For prosecutors, it was the deal they could secure. For Tanya, it was a crushing defeat. She told reporters, "She killed my child in cold blood. 5 years is not justice for my daughter." The tension between legal strategy and a mother's pain could not have been more stark. Even with the sentencing complete, questions linger. What exactly was on that 8-minute voicemail? Did the arcade footage show what Tanya insists it did? Why did prosecutors ultimately accept a plea to manslaughter instead of pursuing the murder charge all the way to trial? For Tanya, the case remains unfinished. The official system may have closed its file, but her fight continues. In the days after Tyra's death, friends and family gathered at Greater Temple Baptist Church for a candlelight vigil and a celebration of her life. They remembered her laughter, her warmth, and the future she never got to live. For Tanya, these events were bittersweet. They honored her daughter, but they also underscored the permanence of her loss. She told mourners and reporters alike that she would never stop speaking her daughter's name. Tyra's story has become part of a larger conversation in Charlotte about justice, accountability, and the way Black women's lives are valued in the legal system. The legal system has its rules. Prosecutors must weigh evidence, likelihood of conviction, and what a jury might decide. But families measure justice differently. For them, the weight of their loss cannot be balanced by years on a sentencing sheet. Tyra's case shows that gap with painful clarity. Stephanie Alexander will serve her sentence, court records will mark the case resolved, judges will move on. But for Tanya Hoskins, there is no resolution. She said, "I get sadder every day. Another year without her, another holiday, another birthday. I won't stop fighting for my daughter." Her words are a reminder that cases like this are never truly closed for the people who love the victim. The murder of Tyra Crosby is a story about more than one shooting in Charlotte. It is about how lives can be erased in seconds, how justice can feel incomplete, and how mothers are left to carry both grief and the torch of advocacy. Tyra's life mattered. Her story matters, and remembering her is itself an act of justice. Her mother said it best, "I won't stop until my daughter gets justice." Stories like Tyra's remind us why demanding accountability matters, Please like this video, share it, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from to keep her memory alive. Her story should never be forgotten.